Welcome to Inside the Franchise, Walter. What day is it? Tuesday? It's already been a long week, right?
Right.
well, we're gonna be talking about the Cleveland Browns. Um, I
Browns.
mean, the dog pound is in the house right now. I believe. I mean, they had a pretty good season. I think. Overall, they finished what 11-5. They
Yep.
tied for sec. They tied for second place with the Baltimore Ravens out of the AFC North. Uh, let's get right into it here. Well, so when you look at the Brown situation, I mean, they're not in cap hell like we've been saying, right? About other teams.
Right.
I mean, they managed to bring in some pretty good players in this offseason, this free agency frenzy, so to say, right? They brought in the safety John Johnson, Troy Hill, the cornerback Troy Hill, both from the Rams. They brought in Tech
Tack McKinley.
McKinley,
Yep.
yeah, defensive tackle Malik Johnson. They also brought in a couple linebackers, and they brought back Rashad Higgins, their own wide receiver, who helped them out in the when they helped them out, especially during the latter part of the season. I
Right.
mean, when we look at the team, well, they finished third in the NFL in rushing. Their defense, and just to clarify, their offense was actually 16th overall offensively. Their defense was ranked 17th overall in the NFL, and their pass rush actually finished in ninth in the league. So when you look at that, I mean, looks like the Browns are trending in the right direction right now as we kind of see things. So let's get your thoughts on that 2020 Cleveland Brown season. I mean, what do you think about it overall? I mean,
I think Stefanski stepped in and made a huge difference. You know, that team was underachieving. To be frank, they spent the last 2 3 years really building up that roster, and I think things really turned around last season. Like you said, you look at the Browns. They finished 11-5 last season. If you look at them overall, from top to bottom, they've got a very good young quarterback. They've got a very good offensive line. They've got a very good running game. They've got an elite pass
Miles Garrett, right?
rusher. They've got an elite corner when he's healthy in Denzel Ward. They've got an elite receiver. There we go. So if you look at the Browns, I think people say, well, they're an 11-5 team, so that means Baker numbers had to be better. So when you look at Baker's numbers in 2020 were very, very, very comparable to his rookie year numbers. And the big difference was all the ancillary parts around Baker were better. They improved pretty much at every position. But when you look at the Browns, I think they can still improve at the corner position. I love the John Johnson acquisition. I like the Troy Hill acquisition for the slot. I still think they can get another guy on the outside next to Denzel Ward. I'm not sure if the current regime is really sold on Greedy Williams. I'm not sure if they're married to Greedy Williams for the long term. They, from what I've heard, have been kind of down on his production over the first couple seasons. So I think also linebacker, and I think interior defensive line are two positions where they can afford to get younger. I actually had them taking Zayvon Collins as well in my last mock draft. I think Collins would be the perfect fit for what they need over there. Also, I think defensive end, never rule out DN. They could stand to have another guy opposite
Miles
of
Garrett.
Miles Garrett. I think Tack McKinley is a guy who has a chance to kind of resurrect his career. I'm not as down on McKinley as a lot of people were in his first 3 years. He had 18 sacks in his first 3 seasons. I know that's not enough for some people, but he battled some injuries, but the effort has always been there, and I think things kind of just wore thin in Atlanta for various reasons. But so I think defensive end, defensive tackle, interior defensive line, and corner are three areas I really expect them to focus on come draft time.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at it, I think that the Browns have been, uh, they've been taking a pretty good approach as far as how you should use, the offseason, how you should use free agency to improve your team, right? So you don't go into the draft, drafting for need, as suppose you draft the best player available, right? So I mean, let's talk about that, right? Because we're getting closer and closer to the NFL draft. I think we're the 23rd of March. The draft is almost literally like a month away. So when we look at it, for this team to get over the hump, right? Let's look at what some some of the more well-known names in the business have the Browns doing to improve, right? Daniel Jeremiah has them selecting Washington Huskies edge rusher Joe Tryon. Um, and then we got Mel Kiper and Todd McShay. They're actually on board with you. They actually have Tulsa's stud linebacker Xavier Collins being selected by the Browns, and then PFF, right? The I guess it's kind of like kind
The
of like the
Bible of NFL connoisseurs.
well, I was gonna say I don't know. Some people they love PFF or they hate PFF. We're just talking about PFF is now is emerging as a well respected organization that is driven by numbers. And when you look at it, the Cleveland Browns. I mean, when you look at the top of their organization, they really stress numbers. But PFF has them actually drafting Jason Uwe, right?
Owie,
That's the
Jason
yeah,
Owie.
or Owe. Man, I heard Awe. I've heard Owe. I believe it. From what I've heard the announcers pronounce it was Owe. So he's out of Penn State. I mean, when you look at this young man, man, he looks like what you would want in an edge rusher, opposite of Miles Garrett. But I mean, from those names, is there any name that really stands out aside from Xavier Collins?
Well, Jason Owie terrifies me, and he terrifies me because, well, as you said, I don't. I can care less about guys who look the part. He ran the 4.3 40 at the pro day, and he's got the size and all the measurables. Look at the production. There was none. I'm terrified of guys who have all the physical gifts in college and don't even come within 30% of maximizing it whatsoever. People expect them to get to the next level and just make that jump. That rarely ever happens, especially with pass rushers. So I had Owe down as a third round pick. And
Well,
going back to the summer, I saw him in some mock drafts. Yeah, going back to the summer, he was in mock drafts mid second. I've seen him go as high as 13th actually. And I think it's just
well,
all projection. It's all projection, but a guy has to have some suction whatsoever. He has to. It can't just be all physical numbers.
he did run a sub 4.5, right? I think recently, so I think that's where a lot of this buzz is being generated. So, I mean, and then he's what a little over 6'4", 260 around there. He may be a little bit immeasurables can be off a little bit, but when you look at it, these are what right now some of the well respected, some of the more respected. I'm sorry, Walter will be back on, but like I was saying, some of the more well respected names that have the Cleveland Browns selecting. So when you look at it, um, let me see here. Walter's back online. Sorry about that, guys. Little
I'm
technical
back.
difficulties. So, like I was saying, those are some of the names that some of the big the well known names that cover the draft and actually watch these kids play. I know that we've done a lot of game film as well. We like these prospects. Um, so aside from Jason Away, I know that you're all in with the Xavier Collins pick. Then, so you're more of a Todd McShay, Mel Kiper kind of. Uh, you're on board with them. So let me ask you this question, and I mean we're almost done here, right? Because obviously the Browns are no longer the Browns of what we've known before, right? I mean the Browns were always, I mean they were almost what dead last, or always or always picking in the top five, top 10 picks, and that's not the case anymore. We're looking at a new age Browns team. So to sum it up and to kind of finish it out, let's just say they land on 2 3 starters. Let's say they get some good parts in place. They fix that defense up and get that passing game going, right? Because obviously that's where you want to excel, right? If they can fix that percentage, right? Because they finish, when we talked about it, they finished 17th in passing.
Right.
I'm sorry, they finished 22nd in passing, and they had finished, it was 26th in coverage. So if they can find some starters that can allow them or help them in this, where do you feel the projection will be for the Browns in the next coming years?
I think sky's the limit for the Browns, no question. When you look at the Browns last season, their Achilles heel was defending the pass. They gave up 31 touchdowns through the air and they only took the ball away 8 times. But they managed to win a lot of games because offensively they were able to match it and they were able to get after the quarterback enough and they were pretty solid against the run. So I think if they address a few things, and it doesn't even have to necessarily be starters. I think they really need Denzel Ward to stay healthy. First and foremost, if you have an elite defensive end in Myles Garrett, an elite corner, because of my estimation, and I've been saying this since he came to the league, Denzel Ward, when healthy, is a top 5 corner in this league. And then, you bring in the signing of John Johnson, who solidifies that back end. He's the do-it-all safety. I like Ronnie Harrison. They've got players over there. They've got the core set. They've got the quarterback in place. They've got the 2 running back stable in place if they decide to not pay Hunt whenever, because at the end of the day, Chubbs is the guy. We know Chubbs is going to be the guy long term. So even if they decide to let Hunt go and free up some money, they still have Chubbs. They have tight ends. They've got one of the best offensive lines in the league. So if the Browns fix a couple things, mainly the secondary, if they can really get stout in that secondary, sky's the limit.
Well, so got a little shout out there for you. When you look at it, well, what did you say? If Denzel Ward can stay healthy, that the Browns would what? What was the
There's no
prediction?
reason why they shouldn't be able to compete for the Super Bowl. They were there
Oh,
just pretty much honestly last season. So they
yeah,
can get there. They can definitely get there because if you look at that roster in general, you can match that roster up against any other roster in the NFL, position by position.
and if they get a healthy OBJ, do you think they're going to keep Odell Beckham Jr.?
He's a huge key. Does he come back healthy? Is he the same OBJ? And does he fit into this new system that was able to thrive without him? So
Well, I think that, I mean, if you can get a healthy OBJ, I mean, you're gonna get some crazy catches, right? So let's go ahead and round this out and finish it off. When we look at the actual organization, when we look at the organization top to bottom, Paul D Podesta, right? So do you feel that his strategy for team building, do you feel that he is putting the right pieces in place to get the Browns a Super Bowl ring? Yes or no?
yes, yes,
Wow.
definitely. The Browns have kind of hurts to say it because I'm from Detroit and I'm a Lions guy, but the Browns seem to have figured it out before we were able to figure it out. Sometimes you gotta stub your toe a few times before you realize exactly where that bar is at on the end of the bed. And the Browns seem to figure it out. Like I said, they hit. You have to realize though, Jerry. Look how many picks they swung and missed on, Jerry.
That's true.
They swung and missed on a lot of picks before with prior Baker, and they've been hitting the last few years. It started with Myles Garrett. They were able to hit on Myles Garrett. They hit on Denzel Ward. Regardless of how people feel about Baker, I think a lot of negative feelings people have towards Baker on the field are directed to how he performs off the field. And I understand a lot of people don't really care for Baker, but Baker's good. Baker's very good, and Baker has proven that when you give him the necessary ancillary pieces around him to help him be better, and you're not asking Baker to be 45 attempt a game guy, you can definitely win with Baker. And I think when it comes down to it, when the running game isn't working, Baker can gunsling you to some wins also. So I think the Browns are set up. They're set up in that division. Right now, it's looking like it's them in Pittsburgh. We expect Pittsburgh to be back, but right now it's pretty much looking like the Browns overall to me.
Yeah, we had some members on the actual East West Football Network actually predicting an upset when it came down to it, right? That the Browns were going to upset the Steelers, but Steelers are a very resilient team. I think they've been running that division for quite some time now. But when we stop and we look at the big picture, the reason why I asked that question about Paul DePodesta was because he's bringing this money ball to the NFL, right? And wow, applaud to the owner for being so patient during this whole process. But man, I mean, they're trending in the right direction. I think they have the right pieces in place. So, uh, if anything, let's wait till the draft to see exactly what they do, and let's expect bigger things for the Cleveland Browns. Until then, thank you for tuning in, and stay tuned. Thursday coming
I
up.
just want to see OBJ back, man.
Me too, man. I like him.
Can
I
I
think
get
that
OBJ back?
I think that he's
I want a healthy OBJ.
I think and he looks like he has a clearer mindset, man. I've always been a big fan of Odell Beckham Jr. ever since LSU days. But that's gonna go ahead and do it for us. And tune in for Thursday.